Almost all these emerging markets lack critical infrastructure. Bridges, roads, airports, electricity, digital, healthcare, schooling, skilling. Second is agriculture as a business. If you look at Africa, small farmers, we cannot let them fall away. Africa has only 6% of its area under irrigation. To give you a comparison, Asia has 37%. The third is primary healthcare.
World Bank President A.J. Bengal, speaking in the spring meetings organized by the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank in Washington, D.C., they also released the Africa's Pulse report, where they sort of gave Nigerians an expo, so to speak. They said that more Nigerians will become poor in 2025, in 2026, and into 2027. So this is a kind of expo to Nigerians. They are kind of telling you ahead what will happen in the future so that you can do something about it. All these forecasts are supposed to drive government decisions. They should be able to say, okay, if more people are going to be pushed into poverty in this year, this is what we are supposed to do to counter that. If more people are supposed to be pushed into poverty by 2027, we are supposed to concentrate majority of our investments into these sectors to make sure that people are pulled out of poverty instead of pushing them into poverty. Look at this chart. It paints a very grim picture. Nigeria shouldn't have anything to do with poverty, but the reality is 19%, the world's largest concentration of poor people, is in Nigeria. It's understandable that many might be ashamed of this. They might not want others to know about this. They want to hide it from foreigners so as to present an image that Nigeria is a better living place than the reality. That's understandable. But if we continue going that way, that means we are not telling ourselves the truth. We are not facing the reality. Remember that there was a time when Nigeria was better than many Asian countries. As at 1990, Nigeria's GDP was higher than that of China, Vietnam, many Asian countries. But today, 35 years later, they are far better than Nigeria. What's the difference? The difference is simply leadership. These countries had better leadership. They had visionary leadership and they set out goals which they met. Nigeria has failed in that regard. So if you understand that the difference between us and our peers of yesteryears is leadership, then you must do something about that leadership. Forget about all the excuses. If you continue making excuses, the election has been rigged, this man is so powerful, you can't do anything, it's an effort in futility, all this, all that, then you are still not ready to fight for a better life. You cannot simply give up without putting up a fight, at least to your own capacity. It's just like armed robbers telling people in a neighborhood or an estate that they will come on a so-so date, that they should keep something for them, keep money, everything, that they are coming to rob them. What are the residents supposed to do? Are they supposed to give up without putting up a fight? Are they supposed to leave their doors wide open and run away so that when the robbers come, they will just make a feast? They should effectively make it easy for the robbers? No, that's not how to go. They should put up an effort. They should form a vigilante among them. They should inform the police. They should seek the services of private security agents. Yes, if they put in all these measures, they will be able to repel the armed robbers when they come. If they don't face any resistance, they will never stop. They will keep coming. When are they going to stop? And if you continue running, when are you going to stop? Ordinarily, if something happens to you along the way, you find the safest place nearby to go and take shelter. And if you can't find anywhere nearby to take shelter, the next option is to go to your home. So if something is about to happen to you at your own home, you must now stand your ground and put up a fight, because there is nowhere else you can run to. This is the reality of life. So all the people giving all sorts of excuses, this is a done deal, we can't do anything, they are so powerful. Wake up from your slumber. Stop giving excuses or expecting someone else to fight on your behalf. Take the bull by the horn, at least at your own capacity, and do what you have to do as a man, as a Nigerian. Now, this was how P2B came under fire by a PDP chieftain, Segun Sowunmi. He called P2B the chief demarketer of Nigeria on steroids. This was after P2B wrote on his verified X handle. Let's see what he said. Yesterday at Johns Hopkins University, USA, I honored the invitation to speak on politics and change in Nigeria from Professor Peter Lewis, the famous author of Growing Apart, Comparing Indonesia and Nigeria. In discussing this very critical issue, which directly impacts the direction of a nation, I pointed out that the failure of a nation depends largely on its political leadership. Competent, capable, and compassionate political leadership with integrity will help nations to achieve sustainable growth and development. In my speech, I tried to assess three of our comparable nations, China, Vietnam, and Indonesia, from 1990 till date. In 1990, the year the measurement of the Human Development Index (HDI) was started, these three comparable nations, including Nigeria, were all classified under the medium category of the HDI measurement. 35 years later, three of these nations have moved up to the high category of HDI, while Nigeria has fallen into the low category. Within the same period of 35 years, from 1990 to 2025, the GDP per capita of these comparable nations have all improved. As of 1990, while Nigeria had a GDP per capita of $556, China had $317, Indonesia had $578, and Vietnam had only $99. Nigeria obviously had higher GDP per capita than China, while Vietnam had less than 1/5 of Nigeria's per capita. Today, Nigeria's per capita is about 1/5 of Indonesia's $5,000 and Vietnam's 4,400 GDP per capita, and below 1/10 of China's 1,300 GDP per capita. In the area of poverty, Nigeria, with about 50 million poor people, had the least number of people in poverty in 1990 than any of the three countries. While China had about 750 million people living in poverty, Indonesia and Vietnam had 85 million and 60 million poor people respectively. China alone had about 15 times the number of poor people than Nigeria. Today, however, Nigeria has more poor people than these three countries combined. The question then is, what exactly did these countries do to be able to achieve the desired growth and development? That is where political leadership comes in. These comparable nations, and indeed other progressive nations unlike Nigeria, have competent leadership with character, capacity, and compassion, committed to prioritizing investment in critical areas of developmental measures, education, health, and pulling people out of poverty. You see, these countries P2B mentioned, by the time they were down, they had all these millions of poor people. They didn't waste their energy in trying to stop people from talking about it. Like, they didn't want to hide the figures. They didn't want to prevent people or try to somehow present a better image when they know within themselves that they have millions of poor people. Rather than wasting their energy, they spent that energy on deep introspection. They planned ahead, focused on that plan, and achieved what they achieved. So you can't eat your cake and have it. No one can have it both ways. If you don't want people to know about the wrong things in your country, then stop doing bad things. It's as simple as that. It is laughable that people talk about demarketing Nigeria when the chief demarketer of Nigeria is Tinubu himself and other corrupt politicians in power. These people have no shame. The highest demarket this country has ever witnessed is the coming to power of Tinubu. If you're a foreigner or foreign investor that is trying to invest in Nigeria and you just research on Tinubu's name, what will come up on Google will shock you. You will wonder, how can out of more than 200 million people, these people didn't see any person to make their president except this man who forfeited $460,000 to the US government being proceeds of drug trafficking. There's nothing that can demarket Nigeria more than this. So people should face reality. Nigerians are supposed to be angry with the people that impoverished us, not the person who, like a victim, is saying this is what they did to us. It doesn't make any sense. You are not angry at the people who committed the crime, who impoverished this country, who reduced our GDP, but you are angry at a fellow victim who is shouting, this is where we are supposed to be. These are the countries we were above 35 years ago. If we had good leadership, we are supposed to, up till today, be above these countries. This is the mentality that has kept Nigeria undeveloped. This is the same mentality they use to subjugate and intimidate young people. Whereas in other countries, young people as young as 20, 22 years are already married and raising families. It's not possible in Nigeria because you don't have a job yet. Yes, you have not even come out from school at the age of 22. So how are you going to raise a family? In a country where poverty seems to be a policy, they use that to hold everyone spellbound. So it is 2025, it is time to work together and break that artificial prison they use to subjugate Nigerians. Thanks for watching.